Alrighty, we are in Kingston, and today, this morning, I am going to give you a little brief synopsis of what I'm going to be talking about this morning at my therapeutic yoga intensive. I am here for day number 2 of day 6, training a variety of yoga teachers and kinesiologists, therapeutic applications of yoga. And I want to talk a little bit about pain and recovery from pain. So the big thing here about recovering from pain is this. If you are in persistent and consistent chronic pain and you want to reduce pain, there is a big key thing that you need to do. And the big key thing that you need to do is you need to move in a range that doesn't increase those symptoms. Now, why is that? Well, if you keep moving and tolerating the pain symptoms that you have, that's then sending the signal not only back to your nervous system, but into your entire state of being, that this is a normal way to be. And so then the symptoms and the signals and the messages will continue to stay status quo. So if you have persistent, consistent chronic pain, be sure to start to move when you're doing exercises like rehabilitative exercises or corrective exercises or yoga or Pilates or fill in the blank. When you're doing those exercises, move in a range that doesn't increase your pain or other symptoms, ache or strain. Now then you might realize as you do this, you might realize that your movement is actually really quite small. Like you'll feel like you won't be able to move quite as far. And that is when I will be here on the other side of the computer saying, yay, 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 yay. That's the idea actually, because in all of my years of working with people and helping them reduce pain and recover post-op from surgery and a whole myriad of other situations, I have yet to meet a single person who has pain, ache, or strain who does not also have some dysfunctional movement patterns or some limitation in their movement patterns. I just haven't seen it. So you might think that you move really well, particularly if you've had pain and strain for a consistent and persistent for a long time. You have done an incredible job at tolerating and pushing through that pain. You've done it to live your life. So to all of a sudden peel back and move in a smaller range might actually feel really, really weird. And you might actually feel like you're going backward because now you're not moving as far. Well, isn't that actually going in the reverse direction? And the answer is no. When you move too far, you might in your brain be thinking, I am doing good. I am improving my range of motion. And if I improve my range of motion, I'm going to get out of pain. And that's not an accurate thought. When you actually peel back to a range where there's not that pain, that strain, that ache, that agony, that irritation, that aggravation, fill in the blank, you're then going to recognize where else you have limited patterns. You might notice where you hold your breath. You might notice where you grip with your rib cage. You might notice where you move your pelvis rather than your leg bone. You might notice where you move your rib cage rather than your arm bones, right? You'll start to recognize various compensatory patterns. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, there's a woman in the group. She has ankle problems, which actually were leading all the way up through her body. And she had solved a lot of the issues in her body, but she was still having some difficulty, which is why she's here at the intensive. And here's what we found. When she was moving into Warrior 1, her movement it looked fine, right? To the naked eye, it looked fine. But if you really paid attention closely, as she was bringing her heel to the floor, her pelvis did this weird, funky, wobbly thing, right? And it broke through a number of planes. When she didn't go back as far as she thought she should, her pelvis was steady, easy. There was a whole bunch more ease in her body. When she came out of it, she was lifted, she was tall. She was like, this is awesome. Then as we kept going through the morning, she started to recognize things in her rib cage and how they triggered headaches and pelvis, rib cage, headache. And she started to be able to piece together all of these correlating points. Whereas at the end of the day, she could see and recognize all the things that she could do to relieve what needed to be relieved. And she also improved her awareness of how our biomechanical patterns were working. So 2 things there that are important. The first is that she was able to recognize a lot of correlating patterns associated with the symptoms she was having, and then she was able to do something about them. So she was able to get some quick relief, which is important for feeling good and confidence building, but then she also could then create a plan out of just what we did in one day. She could create a plan of recognizing, oh, okay, now I recognize all these other pieces that are in relationship to why I have this original problem. So then as we work together today and in the next few days, she's going to have an opportunity to clear those patterns up and then start moving in a whole new way. So this is the process that you go through if you're someone who's got pain and you want to reduce that pain, consistent, persistent, or whether it's occasional. You first need to actually move in a place where that pain is not going up. Think about it in like a tomato stew. You got a tomato stew and you've put too much spice in the tomato stew. So what do? Do you add more spice or do you add more tomato? Right? And so lots of people, they will add more spice. They're going to try to push through the pain. They're going to just not stop. They're going to endure, and then they wonder why their symptoms don't go away. And their symptoms don't go away because they're just adding more spice. They're adding more of the same thing. So the first step is to start moving in a range that doesn't increase your symptoms. That's the first piece. The second piece is then to recognize the correlating patterns that are related to your pain, right? And that you only can figure that out once you move in a smaller range of motion. So a piece of clarity here. I don't want you just to move in a smaller range of motion for the sake of it. I want you to move in a range of motion that doesn't increase your symptoms. Start there. And then recognize what you notice in terms of your movement patterns, okay? If this is of interest to you and you would like me to watch you in your movement patterns, then you can send me a direct message. We've got a few different options from private sessions to online group mentoring and coaching, as well as the therapeutic yoga intensive. So if you want some help, I'm here. I'd be delighted to help you. It's time to get out of pain. All right, I'm getting ready for my day 2. Stay tuned for another live later on, either today or tomorrow. Bye-bye.